She still sleeps with a nightlight on, still keeps her stuffed rabbit by her bed. She can't open a bank account, but they put a veil upon her head. She can't sign a lease or hire a lawyer. She can't get a tattoo in most states, but Daddy signed his name on that paper and told her she should be grateful for her fate. Who looked at that little girl and saw a wife instead of a child? Who counted her worth in a handshake and handed her off before she was grown? Sign her away with a pen and a prayer and a stranger's ring. She's too young to vote, too young to drive, but old enough for everything. Sign her away, sign her away. The ink on that paper is a chain. The family that's supposed to hold her safe signed her away, signed her away. She can't rent a car, she can't enter into a contract. She can't even check herself in at a clinic door. But they dressed her up like a paper doll and gave her to a man twice her age. She asked her mama, "Is this right?" Mama said, "Hush now, this has all been arranged. Love didn't write that marriage license. A parent signed it and a child was exchanged." Who looked at that little girl and saw a bargain rather than a soul? Who signed away her tomorrow before she even knew what she was owed? Sign her away, sign her away with a pen and a prayer and a stranger's ring. She's too young to vote, too young to drive, but old enough for everything. Sign her away, sign her away. The ink on that paper is a chain. The family that's supposed to hold her safe signed her away, signed her away. She can't get a tattoo. She can't pierce her ears without your permission. She can't drop out of school without your signature. She cannot enter a binding contract. The law says so. She is a minor. But you signed her name away. You called it marriage. You called it tradition. You called it love. We call it what it is. We call it what it is. We call it a crime. She dropped out in 9th grade, never went back. She learned to keep the house and not talk back. Now she's got a daughter of her own, and she's terrified of what she's been shown. Some girls run, some girls stay, some girls just disappear one day. All of them started the same way. A little girl, a family, a pen, a door that never opened again. Sign her away with a pen and a prayer and a stranger's ring. She was too young to vote, too young to drive, too young for everything. Sign her away, sign her away. That ink on that paper was a chain. The people who were supposed to hold her safe signed her away, signed her away, signed her away, signed her away. She got out at 19, didn't look back. Still sleeping with the lights on down the hall. Still teaching her daughter she can say no. Still learning that herself after all. And she still has that rabbit, because she was just a girl.
Live on the air, Trial Junkies United presents Justice After Dark with your hosts, Z.
Thing on another side, trying to see if I don't hit it as often and make mistakes, but we'll see. You know me. What can I say? I like to push the buttons. Hey, Sleuthy Sweetheart was here first. So glad to see you. I did tell Moo you gave her a shout out. She really let that go to her head. So I don't know where the drama queen is right now. Hey, Simi's here, and Irish and Katrina, our beautiful mods. Our dearest little Fala's not feeling good tonight, so let's give her some love and send it out. For Quaz visiting with us, awesome. And all the lurkers that are out there, come join us. This is going to be a big one. This is our part 2. And so let's get started. We're going to greet all of our trial junkies, our truth seekers, and our justice warriors. I'm Z, your storyteller in the wilderness of injustice, with my ride or die doc, riding shotgun as we navigate the darkness where the predators hunt and the system fails. We're ready to shine a light on the forgotten stories society prefers to leave buried. So buckle up, because the path ahead's going to get bumpy as we lead you through another section of this nightmare we call our justice system. Doc, you ready to ride?
Yep, yeah, I'm trying to hang on right now.
Okay, well, hang on, because it's going to be a little bumpy.
All right.
But last week we started with Franca Viola and followed her story across the Atlantic into a country with nearly 315,000 children legally married between 2000 and 2001. Well, we're in 2026, so we know that number is bigger. Where at least 66,415 of those marriages occurred under conditions that should have been classified as sex crimes. Pammy's here. Yay. Everybody shout out to Pammy.
Woohoo!
We look at how the system enables it tonight. Okay. We're going somewhere most people don't go when they talk about a child marriage. We go to the word nobody in this conversation wants to say out loud: trafficking. And we're going to say it.
Shh.
Shh. Now, I want to be precise here because precision matters legally and to the survivors. Under current U.S. federal law, child marriage is classified as child abuse and a human rights violation. It doesn't automatically go right into human trafficking, and not all of it is. But the Trafficking Victims Protection Act does define trafficking as the exploitation for commercial sex or forced labor through force, fraud, or coercion. But here is where it gets complicated, and here is where international law and legal scholars and survivor advocates draw a very different line. So the question is not whether the law currently calls it trafficking. The question is whether what is happening inside these marriages meets every element of the trafficking definition, and whether that marriage license is the only thing standing between a federal crime and a wedding photo.
Julie's guitar just showed up. Yay!
Yay, Jules! We're glad you're here, darling. And you know me, I've got questions. That automatically gives me some questions. So let's jump in, because there are 3 elements. Whoops, I need to go back. 3 elements in 2000 that the United Nations adopted for trafficking in persons protocol. The United States implemented it, and through the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, or TVPA, under that protocol, trafficking requires 3 elements: an act, a means, and a purpose of exploitation. Now, for adults, you need all 3. For children, the law is stronger. Any commercial sex involving a minor is sex trafficking, regardless of whether there is force, fraud, or coercion, and can be proven, because children, we know, cannot legally consent. Period. End of discussion. So, attorney Elizabeth Warren published a peer-reviewed legal analysis that examines exactly when child marriage satisfies these 3 elements of the trafficking definition. And her conclusion was published in the American Universal Journal of Gender, Social Policy, and the Law, and is that child marriage can constitute trafficking through 3 distinct pathways, which actually occur right here on U.S. soil. Okay? And okay, I'm sorry. I started looking at comments. I got to stop that when I have so. It's like the squirrels. I start chasing the squirrels, you guys.
Yeah. But they're so pretty.
Are.
Uh-huh.
So the one pathway is by the transfer of a child. What do I mean by that? Child and marriage involves transferring a child from her family to her husband's household. So under trafficking protocol, you're transferring a child technically for the purpose of exploitation, regardless of whether money changes hands or physical force is used. It could constitute trafficking, especially if there's a bride price, there could be a dowry, or the parents getting something for it. Hey, patriotism, could they be getting illicit substances? Because we've seen cases where families have done that, traded a child for that. Could it be a business deal? See, all of this could constitute trafficking because there is a transaction. So it's more explicitly a commercial way. 2, sexual exploitation. And that's one thing that it's hard to think about, because the bedroom, once transferred, the child is married and expected to provide sexual access on demand, something that they cannot even legally consent to. They cannot leave without legal consequences. They cannot end the arrangement. They can't hire an attorney. The only meaningful distinction between what happens inside some of these marriages and what the law will call sex trafficking is the marriage certificate. Think about that. The marriage certificate. But what is pathway 3? Forced labor and slavery. And this is the 1956 Anti-Slavery Convention, which directly informed the trafficking protocol. Explicitly defines as a slavery-like practice any arrangement in which a woman without the right to refuse is promised or given in marriage in exchange for payment to her parents or guardians. It could be a child bride who has to cook and clean, bear children, and maintain a household without pay, without freedom of movement, and without the legal ability to leave, and is that by that definition in a condition of forced servitude or servitude. Think about it. This is what she has to do. Child brides are often treated worse than house servants in some instances, performing the same unpaid labor under the same physical risks with no wages whatsoever, because those are controlled by the husband. So why aren't these cases being prosecuted as trafficking? Because law enforcement and the courts and prosecutors are looking at a marriage certificate and treating what's underneath it as a private family matter. A private family matter. In 2025, the Interagency Coordination Group Against Trafficking in Persons convened under the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and they published a landmark policy brief confronting a critical gap in how the world responds to child and forced marriage. And findings were ambiguous. Forced and child marriages are not isolated to just a certain culture or private family matters. They're frequently weaponized as entry points into other forms of trafficking. Sexual exploitation, domestic servitude, forced labor, and the production of child CSAM. Yet case after case is misclassified. Investigators close this file as a domestic dispute. And so if a victim does run away from her husband, she's returned to that household that trafficked them. And because the case was never coded as trafficking, those victims aren't going to receive any specialized legal protection services or even recognition they're entitled to under international law. So the system's not failing by accident. It is failing by definition because the definitions in use are just too narrow. And the consequences of that narrowness are being borne by children. They're the ones that are suffering. And here's the architecture of this misclassification in practice. A child is married at 15 to a man. Could be twice her age. It doesn't even have to be. He could be 5 years older or 6 years older. He's an adult. He has sex with her. In 33 states, this is currently legal because she is his wife. She's isolated. She might not even have a phone, no money, no ID. She performs all the domestic labor without pay. She cannot leave without being classified as a runaway. Think about that. And in many states, she will be returned to him if she runs. Hey, Ken, welcome. So under the TVPA and any of those elements in a different context that would trigger, a trafficking investigation within that marriage, because of that certificate, it becomes a shield. And as one survivor described it publicly, she said it's a workaround for statutory R laws. If you are SA'd a child, you're going to prison. But if you sign up to SA them again and again as their spouse, congratulations, we're not going to prosecute you, is basically what they're telling them. Think about that. And the numbers aren't getting smaller because in 2025, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received more than 113,500 reports of possible child sex trafficking. And that's a 323% increase from 2024. And we know those numbers are low. 1 in 7 children reported missing from child welfare in 2025 were likely victims of child sex trafficking. These are not strangers grabbing children off the streets. It's not that van, that van that comes around the corner. 40 to 50% of minor trafficking cases in the United States involve family members or caregivers. Think about it. The marriage certificate is one of the tools that keeps those cases invisible. Traffickers will even marry some of these children because they know it protects them. Hey, Billy. And there's a corner even darker than that. Unregistered marriages performed through religious ceremonies without state registration leave children completely outside the law's protection. No legal standing, no record of the marriage exists, no path to any remedy. And these children do not officially even exist in the system at all. And last time, a couple of weeks ago when we started this section or this topic, Warren Jeffs was the former president and self-declared prophet of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. He is serving a life sentence in a Texas prison The crimes that put him there are the masterclass in how religious authority can be weaponized to traffic children in plain sight. Jeffs ran an organized system of child and forced marriage within the FLDS, taking girls as young as 12 as his own spiritual brides while arranging the marriages of other young girls to older men within the sect. Survivors describe a world where resistance was punished, girls were treated as property, and the word of the prophet was absolute. His 2011 conviction rested on evidence seized during the FBI's 2008 raid on the FLDS's Yearning for Zion Ranch in El Dorado, Texas, the same state where he now serves his sentence. Prosecutors presented audio recordings of Jeffs sexually abusing a 12-year-old. DNA evidence confirmed he had fathered a child with a 15-year-old. Survivors, including Elisa Wall, who was forced into a marriage at 14, she later won a $16 million civil judgment against Jeffs. Alicia Blackmore, married at 12, has spoken publicly about what life inside the FLDS looked like. And their testimony transformed a criminal case into a national reckoning. And Jeffs is currently, like I said, multiple consecutive sentences. They still think he's running his organization behind bars, though.
Yeah, it's not hard to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And his prosecution remains one of the most significant catalysts for child marriage law reform in the United States. A reminder that when survivors speak, systems can change. But this story doesn't belong to just one faith. It's not just them. Child marriage is not a Christian problem, a Muslim problem, a Hindu problem, or a Catholic problem. It is a power problem. Yeah, Ken, you're right. And it happens across religious traditions, across continents, across cultures. Whatever adults decide that the control of a child's body is acceptable currency, that's what it's about. No major world religion, properly interpreted, sanctions the marriage of children. And that distinction matters enormously because religious leaders are not just bystanders to this crisis. They are potential first responders. A faith leader who verifies the age of a bride and groom before performing a ceremony is a gatekeeper. Now, it does happen to boys too. Not as often. Girls are the number one victims of this. But one who preaches that their tradition does not condone child marriage is an educator, one who guides their community toward progressive child protective interpretations of religious texts. He's an advocate, or she. The same authority that has been used to harm can be turned toward protection. And in communities where religious leaders carry more trust than governments, that turn can save lives. So the Warren Jeff case is just an extreme, but the conditions that made it possible, unquestioned authority, isolated communities, children with no voice, exist in milder forms wherever child marriage goes unchallenged. And naming it's our first step. That's why we decided to do this series. Dismantling it requires everyone, including the faithful. Everyone has to participate. Now, there was a trafficking pipeline hiding in plain sight inside American law, and it runs through the immigration system. There is currently no federal minimum age for spousal and fiancés visas. An adult American citizen can petition to bring a foreign child bride into the United States, and American girls are being legally trafficked for their citizenship. Think about that. They're forced to marry a foreign man so these men can obtain a U.S. visa. Their American passport, the ticket in, and the child's body, the price of admission. That is trafficking. They're exchanging goods. The child for the chance to become a citizen and access to the child. Between the fiscal years of 2007 and 2017, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services approved 686 petitions for spousal or fiancé visas involving at least one minor that they found. And that's one they found. More than 5,500 were filed by adults seeking to bring in minor spouses or fiancés. Nearly 3,000 were filed by minors seeking to bring in an older partner. Nearly 4,800 minor spouses and fiancés received green cards to live in the United States during that same time period. These are the approved petitions. These are the ones we know about. In one case, a 49-year-old man petitioned for a 15-year-old girl. In another case, an immigration officials approved a 14-year-old's petition for a 48-year-old spouse. A 71-year-old man's petition for his 17-year-old wife in Guatemala was approved in 2013. In 149 instances, the adult was over 40. In 28 cases, the adult was over 50. That's not a loophole buried in fine print. It is written directly into federal law. The Immigration and Nationality Act sets no minimum age for petitioners or their spouses. To bring a parent into this country, you must be at least 21 years old. So think about that. But to import a child bride, there's no age limit. So the approval standard is straightforward. Is the marriage legal in the child's home country? Is it legal in the U.S. state where the petitioner lives? If yes, okay, we'll approve it. Hey, Frank, good to see you. So survivor Nalia Amin lived this system from both sides. She was betrothed at 8 years old to a 21-year-old man in Pakistan, forcibly married to him at 13. Her family compelled her to file the immigration paperwork that would bring her husband to America. She was SA'd and beaten before escaping back to the United States alone. He never came, not because the system stopped him, but because she ran. People died to come to America, she said. I was a passport to him. She was 13. The petition was approved. I was a child. Why weren't any red flags raised? Advocates report that immigration status is routinely weaponized as a tool of control, used to keep a child bride silent, complicit, and too afraid to seek help. One girl was brought to the U.S. through an arranged marriage and abandoned at the airport after she miscarried. Another married overseas at 16 was forced to sponsor an abusive husband's entry into the country. The countries generating the most petitions were Mexico, Pakistan, Jordan, the Dominican Republic, and Yemen. But this is not a foreign problem that just comes to our borders. In New Jersey alone, nearly 4,000 minors were married between 1995 and 2012, including 178 children under the age of 15. 178. Every state in America permits exceptions to the age 18 minimum for marriage. Most allow marriage at 16 or 17 with parental consent. Several states even allow children younger than 16 to marry because a judge will approve it. We talked about that. And as advocate Frady Rice of Unchained at last said, plainly, these children are subject to a lifetime of domestic servitude and SA. And the government is not only complicit, it's stamping the paperwork and saying, go ahead. The Senate Homeland Security Committee requested the data in 2017. It took a full year to even get it. The USCIS has since implemented internal flagging systems for minor petitions and has also clearly stated that closing this gap requires an act of Congress. But has Congress done it? Nope. The pipeline's still open. The marriage license serves as both the contract and the cover story. The immigration system is the delivery mechanism, and the law allows all of this. The Child Marriage Prevention Act of 2024 directly targeted this. It died in committee. No hearing, no vote. Think about that. No one protecting the children. You know?
They have a definite, what do they call that? Don't ask, don't tell
I think
policy. I mean, that's when it comes to a person that's doing this via a marriage license. They don't ask any questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it falls into that, oh, it's a domestic thing.
Yeah.
No, this is a child that's being abused. This is a child that cannot consent otherwise. So, why are we saying they can consent now? See, that's the problem. But we're going to pause for just a second here and answer a question that directly, because I think a lot of people don't even know this one, and you need to. If a man marries a minor legally within his state, and he gets this marriage license in a state that permits it, and then, as some couples we know enjoy making sexual recordings, that child's a minor. So is that sexual abuse material? Yes, it is. There is no marital difference here. Defense, none. Full stop. There is a distinction that does not get made often enough, and it needs to be made clearly. The age of consent for sexual activity and the laws governing child sexual abuse material are not the same law. And I ask why. They do not operate on the same logic, and one cannot cancel out the other. So any visual depiction of a person under 18 engaging in sexual explicit conduct is illegal. Under federal law, the criminal code, all 50 states, without exception. It does not
regardless
matter.
of a marriage license or not. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
So no matter whether the minor is legally married to the adult,
Yeah.
it does not matter whether the minor consented even to the images being taken. It does not matter whether the minor sent the images themselves. Consent is not a defense. Marriage is not a defense. There is no defense for pictures of a minor doing those things. And under 18 USC 2251, producing or coercing a minor to engage in sexually explicit conduct for the purpose of creating visual depictions is a serious federal felony. So all you predators out there that are marrying these children so that you can get away with this kind of stuff, you can still go to jail for that. And under that law and the Protect Act, child sexual abuse material is defined as any visual depiction of a minor under 18 engaged in sexual explicit conduct. The definition is absolute, you guys, and the enforcement is federal.
But marrying them with having a marriage license and not doing that, not filming, is A-okay.
No, I mean, no minor can be filmed.
Well, I'm sorry, that's what I just said. Okay.
Oh, okay.
They if they're filmed, it's criminally prosecutable. Okay.
Yes.
But if the same activity happens and there is no camera, nobody's being filmed, then it's just fine. The marriage license, they enact the whole don't ask, don't tell.
Exactly. I have a stray hair that is absolutely driving me nuts. Okay. Sorry. It's just like right in my face and I can't get rid of it. You're right, Doc. So federal law, if it involves a camera or images, yeah, it gets caught, you're going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
But without that, it's A-okay because you have a marriage certificate.
Yeah.
And that's what's wrong.
Yes.
That's what's wrong. And that's where the loophole needs to be corrected. A marriage certificate that can erase a statutory R charge in 19 states does not exist at the federal level when a camera is involved. So we need to ask why the legal age for marriage isn't 18 and why the age of consent is at 18 federally. I mean, come on. It should be.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be direct what this means in practice. If a man legally marries a 15-year-old girl in a state that permits it and then photographs or films that child in CSAM, that child is a minor, the recording is CSAM material. And he can face federal charges with mandatory minimum sentences up to 30 years for production, up to 20 years for distribution if he shares it, up to 10 years for possession. And those are all federal charges. Let's see, Billy, everything is on computers. Why isn't ever marriage with a minor flagged and someone comes and talks to the minors? Yeah, you're right, Billy. You know, and you got to remember some of these girls are coerced and forced into these situations. Nobody asks them their opinion. And judges cannot go below these federal floors. The marriage license does not extend into federal court. The age of consent does not follow them there. What follows is the image, and that image is the crime. And here's the piece that make our red blood just run cold. There are documented cases in which a spouse has produced these recordings and then used them as an additional control mechanism, threatening to distribute them if the child attempts to leave. The recordings become both a federal crime and a tool for trafficking. So the marriage is not a magic document. It's just treated like one until you reach laws that don't work. And one of those laws is federal, has mandatory minimums, and doesn't care which state issued the marriage license. And that makes me have questions. Because if we can draw a federal line that says a camera changes everything, why can we not draw the same line, bright line around the child herself? Why does the camera make her a victim under federal law when the marriage alone does not? Ken, there's an interest.
He brings up,
read it, Doc.
He said there's an interesting tension between federal law and state law behind all of this. As you've laid out, these crimes are often prosecuted federally rather than the individual states. By marriage is largely a state law issue. So this is just another area where our system kind of makes things difficult. Not kind of.
Yeah.
Not kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
They do make it difficult. You know, and,
hey, Lala girl,
you know,
good to see you, sweetheart.
Unfortunately, the separation between state and federal, is, that creates a lot of loopholes.
Well, if we can have a federal law at the age that you can vote, why is there not a federal law for the age of getting married and the age of consent? I mean, that's just a simple.
Yep.
That's basic.
Yeah.
You can't vote, but yet you don't put nothing out there. You know, you have no rights. You don't get to vote, but yet you can be sold into marriage pretty much. Signed over. We can just sign you away.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's really, that camera makes her the victim, but the marriage does not. And that does not make sense.
No.
Okay, now we're going to go in to another part that we might not have thought about. And this one's OnlyFans, which people know OnlyFans is marketed as a platform for adult content creators. You know, adults can do what they want to do. That's not up for me to say. That's their right. Couples, individuals, and some men will post content featuring their wives or partners. There are those sites.
Creeps.
And this is public facing version of OnlyFans. But tonight we're talking about what else is on there. The warning signs were hidden in plain sight. They said there might be teddy bear emojis, baby bottles, lollipops, pigtails, and braces. profile descriptions labeling the creator as tiny, innocent, shy, or little. Account names built around words like baby, sweet, Lolita. For months, in some cases longer, these accounts remained active on one of the world's most profitable adult content platforms. And we're not talking about isolated instances tonight. We're talking about a platform, and we are going to follow it. It's a pattern. It started with the BBC. They did an investigation, and they were the first to pull back the curtain, revealing that minors as young as 12 had active accounts on this platform. So for you adults that have watched some of this content, you need to stop and ask yourself, was I watching a minor? And if I was, ick.
Yeah.
That's just ick. One 14-year-old had used her grandmother's passport to get verified. A 17-year-old named Leah had a fake ID, even after her real age was reported to OnlyFans moderators. Her account passed a follow-up internal review. It took a BBC inquiry to finally get it taken down. Then Reuters, is that how you say it?
Reuters.
Reuters?
Reuters.
Okay. Reuters, that's how
Yep.
you say it. Reuters. Okay.
Yep.
I knew it was different. Thanks, Doc. Reuters went deeper. In December of 2024, Matt Richardson, head of intelligence at the Canadian Open Source Intelligence Center, which trains law enforcement to combat human trafficking and child exploitation, reported 26 OnlyFans accounts to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. His assessment, the accounts appeared to contain sexual conduct featuring underage girls. The females depicted had physical characteristics typical of those under 18. Narrow hips, underdeveloped physical maturity, many appearing in Richardson's words, well short of 5 feet tall. Within 24 hours of his report, all 26 accounts were removed. They had been removed before he reported him. They had not been removed before he reported him. He had to report them. They had been there active, generating revenue until someone looked. Reuters then conducted its own parallel investigation, examining only public profile photos, the content anyone can see without paying a single dollar. Okay? The journalists identified 49 additional accounts where creators appeared childlike to 3 professionals experienced in identifying child exploitation. The accounts used nearly identical promotional language, copy and pasted across profiles and paired with the same emoji sequences, phrases, and promises. More than 150 instances of duplicated language were spread across 25 different accounts that were supposed to belong to entirely separate independent creators. That's not amateur. That's a coordinated production. All 49 accounts were removed after Reuters contacted OnlyFans regarding its findings, not before, after. So that brings the question OnlyFans has not answered. Why did it take an outside researcher and a wire service to uncover them? OnlyFans responded to both investigations by citing a zero tolerance policy, a pre-check team, human moderators, and cooperation with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But that organization told Reuters directly that its access to content behind OnlyFans paywalls is limited, restricted to accounts that have already been reported or are linked to active missing child cases. They are not proactively monitoring the platform. So let's talk about some numbers. OnlyFans made 347 reports to the National Children's Organization in 2023. That same year, Meta had 27 million. Snapchat made 713,000 reports. So did you get that? OnlyFans only reported 347. Meta reported 27 million, and Snapchat 713,000. Google made nearly 2 million reports. OnlyFans, a platform with 4.1 million in content creators, over 120 million paid followers, and a business model that takes 20% of every dollar generated behind those paywalls, made 347 reports. That is a huge difference.
They
The
got
paywalls.
they got a cash system going. I mean, they aren't going to do anything. The almighty buck makes the decision for them. So
Yeah.
and it's awful, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah. And the paywalls that protect the revenue model are the same walls that shield the content from scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
So before anyone accepts 347 as evidence of a clean platform, here's what we actually know is behind those walls. Stacia Sheehan, Vice President of National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, went on the record in 2019. She said roughly a dozen missing children were linked to content on OnlyFans. By 2020, that number had nearly tripled. And those are only the cases they knew about for certain. The Internet Watch Foundation tells the rest of the story. Between 2019 and 2022, they confirmed cases of self-generated CSAM material increased by more than 400%. The fastest growing victim group is children ages 7 to 10.
Wow.
Where is most of this content recorded? Not in some distant location, not somewhere anyone could intervene. It's in a children's bedroom, with the abuser nowhere near the house. Just a screen, a camera, and a child groomed into compliance. The predator never has to touch them. He just has to wait. Richardson said some of what he found may have been legacy CSAM, meaning sexually explicit images taken when the female was a minor, later posted after she turned 18. So it's stuff that they took, but they waited until she was of age.
Yeah.
3 legal experts confirmed to Reuters that this still violates federal law. The image is the crime. The age at the time of production governs. So even if someone is turned 18, it does not sanitize what was recorded before then.
No.
So it's illegal. This is not a loophole. This is a felony. But my question is, who's looking at it and who's looking for it? A researcher in Canada, a British broadcaster, a wire service, and tonight us. Because Richardson's question is still unanswered. This isn't small scale. Reuters. Thank you, Ken.
Yep.
How many are out there? Child exploitation experts made another point that should stop all of us cold. Even when every account holder can be verified as 18, the deliberate curation of childlike appearances, the positioning, the language, the aesthetics of youth creates demand. It normalizes that demand. It pushes the market younger. It creates a demand for younger and younger bodies. Lori Cohen, CEO of Protect All Children from Trafficking, says this type of behavior normalizes child creepers. So if a man married to a minor is putting his wife on there, you're watching C-SPAN. If you encounter an account you believe may involve a minor, report it directly to the National Children's Missing and Exploited Center. Cyber tip line at cybertipline.org. You don't need proof. You only need your suspicion and 30 seconds to make a report. That report goes directly to law enforcement. And you may be the only person who makes it. You could help a child. Silence, whether corporate, regulatory, or ours, it's betrayal. And we got to think about that.
Well, you stop and think about, sites, like this that are running, obviously the outcry isn't loud enough right now, or else sites like this would be closed down. It
Yeah.
so
And we do say adults have the right to do what they want to do.
Yep.
It's it's not my thing. But I'm not telling anyone they cannot share in this. That is everybody's right to say this is what I enjoy. But if you have the chance that you're actually watching CSAM, that's a problem. Yeah, Ken, tons of consequential tips come from folks who didn't think they had what they had to say was important. And yeah, we don't know. That small tip could save someone. So, this child marriage, it's not just a cultural tradition. It's not just a family tradition, a decision. It's a system of control and human rights. Organizations, public health researchers have documented it as exactly that for decades. The mechanics are well established. Early pregnancy can pull girls out of school. It separates them from their family and friends. It destroys any path to financial independence. Advocate describes pregnancy and the threat of it as a deliberate trap used by older spouses to keep minors legally and economically bound to a relationship they can't escape. And sometimes that's the one that gets them put into these marriages. Reproductive
coercion.
Yes, thank you. Is not just a side effect of child marriage. In the vast majority of cases, it's the point. The health consequences are severe and begin before the baby's even born. Because adolescent bodies are still developing, teen mothers face significantly higher rates of pregnancy-induced high blood pressure, severe anemia. The babies can statistically be born premature and underweight. And because teen pregnancies are so often unplanned, young mothers are less likely to seek early or consistent prenatal care, multiplying the risk of both mother and child before either has a fighting chance. The data shows that over a lifetime, it's just a start. Women who marry before the age of 19 face a 23% higher risk of developing certain health conditions like diabetes, cancer, heart attack, and stroke. They are far more likely to become pregnant at a young age and have children in rapid succession. They are nearly 3 times as likely to have 5 or more children. More than 40% will have a second child within 24 months of the first. And the violence that comes with that home, girls between 16 and 19 experience intimate partner violence at nearly 3 times the national average. And here's the cruelest irony for all. Women who marry as children are more likely to seek health services than those who marry as adults. And it's not because their lives are healthier, but because their lives are harder. They need more care because they have survived more harm. Organizations on the front line of this fight are Unchained at Last and the Tahara Justice System or Center. They are pushing for legislation to change state by state and supporting survivors who had no other person in their corner when it mattered most. And so their information is important. But now I'm going to tell you about a couple of girls. This is Heather. And we're going to talk about Heather's story. And it doesn't just end at the altar. Heather was 15 when she met Aaron. He was staying in a trailer outside her grandparents' home in Idaho. She said, I got drunk and woke up in a trailer with him. She says, I asked him what happened, and he said we had sex. I knew he took advantage of me. He was in his 20s. But I really didn't want to admit that I had been sexually assaulted. When she found out she was pregnant, she was terrified. Her mother called the police and pressed charges. But her father and grandparents had a different plan. They were more concerned about protecting the predator from sexual assault charges than their daughter or granddaughter. Heather was presented with a list of options. Her grandfather suggested that they run away to Canada. Her mother suggested she get rid of the baby. Her father suggested marriage. According to my dad, when you get someone pregnant, you marry them. Her father drove 2 straight days to Missouri, where a 15-year-old girl can marry with the consent of only one parent. Heather went with him. She says, it wasn't something I wanted to do, but somewhere in the chaos, she found a reason to go along with it. She went from being scared and alone to believing she would at least have someone beside her when the baby came, that she wouldn't have to do it by herself. She miscarried the baby 4 months later. And here's where her story kind of breaks from the pattern, because her mother didn't stop fighting. She had Aaron charged before the wedding. And Officer Greg Giffrell, who led the investigation, made clear the marriage changed nothing. That doesn't change anything. The crime was still committed before the marriage. And he said after 4 months of marriage, Aaron pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 15 years with eligibility for parole after 3. He was released in January of 2019. And Heather feared that day since the moment it was set. Because she says, I was afraid how he's going to react to me moving on and living my life and having a new family now. And she's now had a baby, and she was concerned, she has a new baby, a new partner. She says, is he going to see it as me leaving him to rot? He's a very angry person who holds grudges. Her fear led her to the decision she describes without apology. She and her partner bought a handgun. She said, I'm not going to live my life in fear of him coming back. If he came anywhere near my daughter or me, I'd shoot him. Aaron was not the only one the police pursued. Investigators believed Heather's father, Keith, had acted as an accessory to the sexual assault by facilitating the marriage.
Well, he did.
Yeah. And what shocked me most, the officer said, is that the father didn't come forward to seek help from law enforcement. He said, I asked Keith about it, and he said, we're religious people, and we don't believe in our child growing up without a father.
That's messed
He
up.
says, but he essayed your daughter.
Yeah.
He only got 4 months in jail. Thankfully, that officer pushed it. The judge framed the sentence deliberately. He said 1 month for every month that Heather had been forced to be married to the man who essayed her. He says, I don't think he really understood what he did wrong, Heather said of her father. I felt like I had no choice, and that he is the one thing I will always hold against him. Now that I look back on it, my mom was the only person who asked, is this what is best for my daughter? When literally everybody was against Heather. That's the only thing I'm so grateful for. I never want my daughter to go through what I had to go through. Heather's mother called the police. Heather's mother pressed charges. Heather's mother was the only adult in that child's life who looked at this situation and asked the right question. One person asking the right question put this R word behind bars. One person, and that's how much silence can cost. And that is why we do not give up and we tell the stories.
So wait a minute. Now, how much? The father did time?
He only did 4 months. He got 1 month for every month she had.
4 months?
For every month that she was in the marriage.
Oh, that's an insult.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? It's more than most of them ever get.
Yeah.
Now, this is Carrie's story. Now, it's a little different in some of the details, identical in the architecture. She met Paul at a party. She was 15 in 2013. He was 24. They slept together once. She became pregnant. Paul's solution was straightforward: marriage. Not because he loved her, because it kept him out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
It was his idea to get married, Carrie said, so that he didn't go to jail for statutory R word. Her father's consent was required. Paul asked. Her father said yes. In photos taken 1 week before the wedding, Carrie's teeth are clearly visible with braces. She wore them on her wedding day. She says her home life had been deeply unhappy and she took a gamble that a life with Paul in a new home might be better. She says, looking back, she calls the law that made it possible stupid. I don't think it's right. You should stay a child for as long as you can. The marriage lasted about 2 years. She described it as horrible. She says Paul treated her like a maid. She never finished school. She knows what that costs her. You can't even get a job at McDonald's without a high school diploma. Paul, when interviewed, denied being a predator. You were 24, dude. The 15-year-old, you were a predator.
Yeah.
He claimed he thought she was 18 because she had a convincing fake ID.
Oh,
but yet he married
get
her.
real. Take a look at that picture.
Yeah. But then he married her to avoid the R charge. He says he has no regrets. Yes, she was 15 and I was 24, but I always said follow your heart because love comes in all shapes, sizes, and ages. No, predators do.
Yeah.
She was 15, he was 24. She had braces. He had a lawyer. And the law handed him a solution. And this isn't an isolated case. Yeah, Billy, you're right. Between 2000 and 2010 alone, an estimated 248,000 children, including girls as young as 12, were married in the United States. We're not talking a foreign country here, people. 2019, 17 American states had no legal minimum age for marriage, provided certain conditions were met. Pregnancy, a judge okaying it, or parental consent. In those states, a pregnant 12-year-old could be legally married to an adult man. The pregnancy resulting from his crime became the legal justification for the marriage that shielded him from accountability for it. In recent years, 10 states have tightened their marriage laws. Progress, but not enough. As of this writing, Delaware and New Jersey have outright banned child marriage with no exception. Other states still might have doors open, and predators know exactly where to find them. In 2024, Utah's Senate President J. Stewart Adams, one of the state's most powerful legislatures, learned that a relative of his had been accused of having sex with a 13-year-old. The relative was 18 at the time. So before what happened next, that accusation could have met a first-degree felony charge of child sexual assault, R word, 6 years to life in prison, mandatory sex offender registry. Adams confided to fellow legislators that the law in the area should be reviewed. And so Senate Majority Leader Kirk Culmore sponsored SB 213, a 49-page bill that reclassified certain sex offenses involving high school seniors to a lesser third-degree charge. The bill passed. The relative avoided additional jail time and did not have to register as a sex offender. The prosecutor said in open court that the legislative change was material to the government's offer. The judge heard it and the defense acknowledged it. The mother of the 13-year-old told the Salt Lake Tribune, I feel like the law is the law regardless of who you are. But that wasn't what was going on here. I feel like he just got special treatment and nobody was going to say anything about it. She was in middle school, and the most powerful legislator in her state quietly rewrote the law that was supposed to protect her. Yeah. Yeah, Ken. Exactly. Her consent, it's a gamble.
Now wait a minute. The offender was related to him? Was
related to the first guy?
Yeah.
He was a relative, and he was 18 years old, and he messed with the 13-year-old.
So
and he got his buddy here to rewrite the law so that 18-year-old wouldn't have to go to jail.
I can't think of anything, of any reason good enough I don't care if they were related or not. It's just why would, jeez, why would you even
Yeah.
contemplate changing a law like that?
Well, here's my thing. Why don't you teach these young boys the concept of no and consent
Huh.
and minors? You mess with the minor, you go to jail. I don't care. I don't care if she's 17 and you're 18. She's still a minor.
Yep.
Wait till she's 18. If you can't wait, that's your problem. That's not her problem. And vice versa. If it's a girl that's older and coming on to a boy that's younger.
Yeah, maybe it should make no difference.
It should make no difference. So we may ask, what about the lawmakers who should be protecting these children? You know, we think of our federal lawmakers, right? Pammy uses a sign. Whatever it takes. In March 2026, the House voted on Resolution 1100, a measure that would have required the public release of Ethics Committee records on sexual misconduct by members of Congress, with all victims' names redacted. Congress has paid $17 million in taxpayer money to settle these claims. Let me say that again. These are claims of sexual misconduct of the congressmen or women that have been paid to victims. 17 million in taxpayer money. Your money, my money.
Yep.
And they were supposed to release, this bill was going to release this quietly. No public disclosure of what happened or who was responsible. The vote was to keep the records buried. 357 to 65, both parties. Both parties. 182 Democrats, 175 Republicans all voted to keep the records sealed. The people who are supposed to protect us and our children from sexual predators are in fact predators who are hiding it.
Yeah, I don't know. Anybody who's surprised at that is got their head in the sand or something, because they're just because they're in Congress does not make them immune to being predators.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Child abusers or whatever. I don't know. But
predators, yeah.
Predators. Yeah,
or I like to call them child creepers too.
That's yes.
Like an indicted co-conspirator. Thank you for joining us. But yeah, Representative Nancy Mace called it as it was. She says both parties colluded today to protect predators. The establishment always protects itself, never the victims. Remember their names. So Mace quote, the resolution followed the death of a congressional staffer, a woman who literally set herself on fire, allegedly after being involved with Representative Tony Gonzalez of Texas. She died from her injuries. 357 members of Congress looked at $17 million in settlements, looked at a dead woman, and voted to make sure you never know what any of it was about. This man harassed this woman till she set herself on fire. I mean, that just, he just would not leave her alone. And that was the point that she went to. So we have these people in Congress and this administration who are hiding the Epstein files and protecting child predators. You know, the pattern's the same throughout Utah. 32 state legislatures, the Child Marriage Prevention Act is dying in committee. The marriage certificate was handed to a man who should be standing before a judge. When the people making the laws benefit from silence, the silence wins every time until it doesn't. Now we're going to talk about Mandy. Mandy's mother encouraged her to spend time with a man from their church in Arizona. He was 18. Mandy was 12.
Well,
12.
she,
His abuse was sanctioned by her mother, who called it God's plan. When he proposed years later, Mandy tried to say no. She ran away. The law returned her. Her parents forced her back into the engagement and then into the marriage. Mandy was 12 when she met the man who would later become her husband. He was 18 when he first met her. They met at a Pentecostal evangelistic Christian church in Tempe, Arizona. The only world Mandy had ever known. No television, no secular music, no friendships beyond the congregation. The church taught that isolation was protection. Yeah, for predators. And that God's will was not something to question. When an 18-year-old man became showing interest in a 12-year-old girl, neither the church nor her mother intervened. Instead, her mother drove her to secret meetings with him. Mandy believes her mother was using the relationship to elevate the family's standing in the church. That's trafficking.
she had a serious problem, a couple of screws loose or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because, oh,
Yeah.
how could you possibly think about doing that to your 12-year-old daughter?
Look at that picture of her at 12.
Oh,
so by the time Mandy was 13, the relationship had become physical. She graduated from high school at 15. Early, she was gifted. She had a partial scholarship to Arizona State University waiting for her. But her mother and this boyfriend told her not to accept it. Education, they said, would interfere with God's plan for her life. When he proposed at 16, Mandy resisted. She knew she didn't want it. She ended the engagement, and her parents retaliated, restricting her freedom, isolating her further, and making home unbearable. Weeks later, her mother arranged a dinner, a chance for reconciliation. On the drive home, he parked the car and told her she owed him sex one final time before they ended things. She refused repeatedly. He became violent. He hit her until she lost consciousness. When she came to, he was running red lights at high speed. She was bleeding from her left eye, which was swollen shut. And then, because this is what abuse does to a person, she felt guilty. She protected him. They concocted a story about strangers in a parking lot. No one asked why he had no injuries. The next morning, her parents made her go to church. When her father learned the truth, he told her she had brought it on herself, that she was destroying God's will for her life, that she was ruining her abuser's destiny. Mandy packed her bags. A coworker brought up her a plane ticket. She ran to her grandparents in Colorado, the only adults in her life who saw what was happening clearly. They wanted her to stay, to go to college, to build a life, but her parents forced her to come back 6 weeks later. The day after she returned, her mother brought him to the house. Mandy says she had exhausted every resource. She had run as far as she could and been pulled back. She gave up. She conceded. 1 week after her 17th birthday, she was married in the church. Her mother signed the marriage license because Mandy was not legally old enough to sign it herself. Her mother signed the paperwork that allowed him to legally continue doing to her what he had been doing since she was 13. The marriage that followed was marked by relentless emotional, physical, verbal, and financial abuse. He broke her things when he was angry. He punched through a bathroom door to get to her. He controlled her money, her movements, and her voice. When she finally escaped at 20 quietly with the help of one brother and 2 friends, the church excommunicated her. Her family cut her off. When her younger brother helped her leave, her parents threw him out of the house as punishment. She filed for divorce and gave him almost everything he asked for because she just wanted distance. She lost her credit, her community, her family, and every friend she had ever known. She still has no contact with most of the people from the first 20 years of her life. It still blows me away, she says, that my own parents allowed this to happen to me here in the United States of America. At 12, Mandy couldn't vote. She couldn't sign a contract. She couldn't open a bank account. She couldn't get a tattoo without her parents' permission. But there was no mechanism in her state to stop what was being done to her. Her mother's participation made legal intervention nearly impossible. Her church made resistance nearly impossible. And when she ran, the law and her own parents brought her back. The system didn't fail Mandy, you guys, because it was never built with Mandy in mind. She's been set free. She lives in California now in a loving relationship with a family she chose. But freedom should not have to require surviving all of that first. The system did not fail Mandy by accident. It failed her because it was not built with her in mind. No state should allow any child to ever marry. Not one. You know?
Simi makes a good point. Sorry, but a lot of churches are evil. And that is so true. I mean, there are countless churches and organizations that promote this kind of behavior, and it's just sickening.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Billy, next level, mommy dearest.
Mm-hmm.
But see, they were doing it for a better position in the church. So they were that was trafficking. You're selling your daughter, giving access to your daughter to a predator to gain something.
Yep. Definition right there.
Yep. Child marriage or forced marriage, that is settled under international law. Child marriage can be trafficking when a child is transferred, exploited sexually, or for labor and lacks the legal capacity to consent or escape. That case is legally established and peer-reviewed. What remains unsettled is whether the United States will choose to treat it that way. We're actually committed to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5.3 to end child marriage nationwide by 2030. That's 4 years away. And yet we have 33 states that are still allowing it here in the US because we like to point across the ocean and say, look at all those people that are doing it wrong. Turn that finger around, people. 33 states. The current administration has taken no action. Are we surprised? The Epstein administration?
No.
In fact, many in the administration are out there worried about birth rates and saying that teens aren't having babies, which should be a good thing. They're saying that even if you aren't in a financial position, you should still be out there having babies while taking all the benefits that help young mothers because they don't want to help you. So we're not on track for that 2030 UN resolution. What you can do right now, check what the officials are doing about child marriage in your state. Ask whether they plan to enact laws for minors. Support Unchained at Last at unchainedatlast.org. They provide direct legal services to people trying to escape. The Tahira Justice Center, that's TAHIRIH, and they track state legislation and fights for the federal level. If you or someone you know is in an unsafe situation involving forced marriage, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. For human trafficking, that hotline is 1-888-373-7888. If a minor is at immediate risk, just call 911. But remember, we started this because Franca Viola said no in a Sicilian courtroom to a forced marriage in 1966 because she had been essayed by some idiot. Italy took 15 more years to change that law. We don't have 15 years. Unlike Franca, we don't have to stand alone in a courtroom. We have each other as a community. We're not silent. Yeah, see, but the problem, unindicted co-conspirator, is you become emancipated, but you come under your husband's authority. So it's not a true emancipation. Your parents no longer have authority over you. when they sent you up on one of these marriages. But you also don't have the authority to hire a lawyer. You're still considered a minor. You would still have to have a guardian ad litem in any kind of a lawsuit. That's the problem. But let's look at our missing person. Oh, I had an extra thing in there. Our missing persons alerts. Remember, stay alert, put that cell phone down when you're out and about, and remember these faces. They may leave you on their own, and then they find they can't safely return. And we know trafficking happens, and others never had a choice. So victims pass by us every day. Most people never notice them. Trust your instincts. That person you just passed could be someone's missing family member. If you recognize anyone or something doesn't sit right, call. Don't wait. Don't assume someone else has already done it. We also have our tip hotline. Tips, the number 4, trialjunkiesunited@gmail.com. We'll send on the information. But reach out. Every case deserves to be heard. Our first person is Haley Jaona Addison. She's 17. She's been missing since June 18th, 2 days ago, from Casper, Wyoming. And we know so many of our native girls go missing up there. She's 5'8", weighs 120 pounds, has brown hair, brown eyes. She has a star tattoo on one arm and a pierced nose. Contact Casper Police Department at 307-235-8278. This is Isaiah William Truster. He is only 17. He's been missing since February 27th of 2026 at 8:40 p.m. from Grove, Oklahoma, Delaware County. He already has a NamUs number, M as in Michael, P as in Paul, 156072. He's 5'8", weighs 170 pounds, has black hair, brown eyes. He was last seen wearing a black shirt with blue jeans, light colored tennis shoes, and a red backpack. He has Truster tattooed on his left forearm, and also the Roman numerals that translate to February 2009 on his arm. You can see that one really clear in the picture. Now, this NamUs case was actually created February 28th, the day after, 24 hours after he disappeared. But for nearly 4 months, there has been no coverage on this young man. The system has failed him. A 17-year-old native boy in Cherokee Nation territory has gone missing since February, and there is no big news alert or nothing, and that's wrong. So let's find Isaiah. This is Tatum Moon. He's 28. He's been missing since May 26. And also his home base is Vancouver, British Columbia. He was last seen in Chilliwack, British Columbia, visiting family. He does not frequent the Chilliwack, and I'm probably saying it wrong, area, and is known to stay in Vancouver. He is 5'11" and weighs about 181 pounds, black hair and brown eyes. He has goatee. The RCMP file number is 2026-23744. Contact the Chilliwack RCMP 604-792-4611. And all of our Canadian viewers can now laugh at how I said that. It's okay. I can take it. What we know beyond the flyer is his disappearance. Police have followed up on several tips, but they cannot find him. And they are concerned about his health and well-being. Family and friends say this is really out of character for him. So it's not a normal behavior for him to be missing. So tonight we walked you down a long road. We started with child standing at an altar she never chose. We followed the legal architecture built not by accident but by design to keep her there. We traced the pathways that turned a marriage license into a trafficking instrument. We followed the money through immigration pipelines, through
Congressional.
Thank you. Settlements, and through a platform that takes 20% of revenue, OnlyFans. It cannot be bothered to police. We sat with Heather, Carrie, and Mandy as we heard their stories. We said their names, and we looked at what happens when the people writing the laws are the same people who need those laws to keep them weak, like in Utah with that Congress the Congress there. 32 state legislatures, a federal bill that died without a hearing, a vote of 357 to keep it under the rug of what they spent our tax dollar money on to cover up their bad behavior. And we still don't know about the Epstein files, but we won't stop asking about it because it's important. But here's what I need you to do tonight. Remember, the camera makes her a federal victim. The marriage does not. The law draws that line, and we are supposed to accept it. We don't accept it. That's why we're here every Sunday. That's why Doc shows up. That's why this community, our trial junkies, our truth seekers, and justice warriors keep growing. Because you refuse to be the silent people that the predators depend on. You showed up tonight, and that matters. And I want you to remember that every killer and every predator, there we go, demands our silence. They depend on it. So let's not give it to them. And remember, it wasn't a mannequin. It never is. And if you know something, say something. And somebody always knows something. And our motto is silence is betrayal. We're not going to be silent. And now just to do some quick housekeeping, if when we do our outro, we have people's little icons on there. If your icon's not on there, how I get them is I look on our YouTube channel for the people that have signed up to support us. And sometimes it doesn't list everybody. So if your little icon's not on there and you want to make sure that you're on our outro, which we'd love to have you there, just send me an email at Trial Junkies United or get a hold of one of my mods and let them know and give us a link to your YouTube so that we can go ahead and, get you up there because it's important. Hey, Rose, thanks for showing up. Love that you were here. And I haven't heard of the bricks and minifigs scandal. That'll be interesting. But another thing I just want to put out there as a little bit of housekeeping is I think as creators, we all have a different viewpoint of stories. And we need to be sharing our platforms with each other, be kind to each other. Nobody should get their feelings hurt. I don't like drama. I'll tell you guys right now, I am busy. I work 7 days a week on this channel because we put out 2 shows a week. This coming week on Thursday and on Sunday, we're supposed to have guests both days. That's a lot of work. I'm getting pictures. We're doing different things. I'm also keeping up on social media. So I just want everyone to share, come and have kindness and have a place to hear the stories. We're here for the victims. We're here for their families. I don't want anyone to ever have their feelings hurt. But I just want to put it out there. I am not a drama person. So sometimes YouTube can get a little territorial. That's not me. If someone wants to do a story on something we've done a story on, great. That's just more voices they're going to hear. And that's what's important. I have no problem. And I just want to be able to share these stories with you. And I thank you guys. Until next time, please stay informed, stay compassionate, keep seeking the truth, and keep demanding justice. Never stop speaking up. Doc, do you want to say goodnight?
Good night, Doc.
I have another new song on the end of here. Please enjoy it. We love you all. Remember, the criminals never stop. Neither do we. So until next time, you keep fighting for justice. We're going to see you Thursday night. We're going to have a returning guest. I'm not telling you who, but it's one you enjoyed. So she'll be coming back. So we'll see you Thursday. And don't forget to join us then. Ciao. Good night.
They gathered in a room and made their plans, passed a future back and forth between their hands. A judge, a parent, a man with a ring. not one of them asked her anything. She sat in the corner, small and still, waiting for someone to ask her will. But the papers were signed, the deal was done, and no one asked the little one. When did she stop mattering? When did her voice go small? When did a little girl stop mattering at all? No one asked me. No one asked me. I was standing right there, yet no one asked me. They decided my life, they decided my worth, as if I weren't a child, as if I weren't on earth. No one asked me. No one ever asked me. You'll point your finger across the ocean wide, call it a crisis on the other side. You'll sign the letters, you'll make the calls, but you look away when it happens down the hall. Your neighbor signed his daughter off last spring. You saw the dress, you heard the church bells ring. You brought a casserole, you wished them well, and no one asked that little girl how she felt. When did she stop mattering? When did her voice go small? When did a little girl stop mattering at all? No one asked me. No one asked me. I was standing right there, yet no one asked me. They decided my life, they decided my worth, as if I weren't a child, as if I weren't on earth. No one asked me. No one ever asked me. They called it marriage, the law called it legal. The judge signed the order, the parents signed the line, but she was a child. And what happened to her had another name. It had a charge. It had a sentence, until someone decided a ring was cheaper than accountability. She never got to testify. She never got an attorney. She could not sign a contract. A parent's hand signed her life away. No one asked her. No one asked her. No one ever asked her. They charged him with nothing, gave him a ring, called it a blessing, called it everything. But she was the crime scene no one named. She was the victim no one claimed. A predator walked free in a suit and tie, and everyone smiled, and no one asked why. The cake was cut, the music played all night, and no one asked that little girl if she was alright. When did she stop mattering? When did her voice go small? When did a little girl stop mattering at all? She always mattered. She always mattered. You never asked me. You never asked me. I was standing right there, and you never asked me. You decided my life, you decided my worth, as if I wasn't a child, as if I wasn't on this earth. But I was always here, I always had a voice. You just never gave me. You just never gave me a choice. I was there, I had a name, I had a voice. Nobody asked. No